world, it's Keely and I'm back for another video. This is going to be my 26 books to read in 2026. Also, my books that will be part of the TBR Spin Challenge. Let's start with explaining TBR Spin. TBR Spin is a yearly challenge that was set up a couple years ago, and Sarah from Freshly Read Books, I'm pretty sure that's her channel, has taken over, and she's run it the last few years. She's doing it again in 2026, and I'm very excited to take part. Basically, you pick like 12 books. I think it's typically 12 that you want to read throughout the year, and every month she will spin a spinner wheel that has different prompts, and one of your books that you can use hopefully for that prompt is the book that you focus on for that month. If you don't have a book that fits that prompt, you have to remove one of your books and put another book onto your list that does fit that prompt. I've wanted to take part in this. I think I have a little bit off and on over the years, but this is I'm putting this out into the universe. This is my intent to stick with it in 2026. I also decided that I love all the videos where people are like 25 books to read in 2025 and things like that. So I picked 26 books that I would love to get to in 2026. If my reading year next year goes anything at all like how my reading year this year has been, this will be no problem and I'll get these done in 2 months, which is probably not going to happen because I'm such a mood reader. But I read a lot because it's my main hobby, and I would love to get to as many of these books as I can. I have this spread in my reading journal, and as I read them throughout the year, I'm just going to mark them off, and let's dive into it because there's a lot of books here. The first one that's on my list is a nonfiction. This one is Speak Okinawa by Elizabeth Miki Brina, and this one I picked up a couple years ago, so all of these are like within the last few years. This one is about Elizabeth, whose mother was working as a hostess in a nightclub on US-occupied Okinawa when she met the American soldier who would become her husband. The language barrier and power imbalance that defined their early relationship followed them to the predominantly white upstate New York suburb where they moved to raise their only daughter. I'm very interested in this one. Obviously, that's why I bought it. I've heard very, very good things about it, and I'm super duper fascinated by and have looked into over the years and had planned to do a PhD and might try to again at some point with a focus specifically on the relationship imbalances and the kind of hyper fetishizing of East Asian women by American soldiers. I just think that's incredibly fascinating and obviously super duper harmful, and so that's why I picked this one up a couple years ago when it came out, and then I put it on my shelf and haven't read it, so I would really, really love to read this one. The next one is a fantasy that my husband got me for Christmas last year or the year before, and I saw the second book has finally been officially announced and is coming out in 2026, I believe. This one is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. I have not read any of her other books, but she wrote the Daevabad trilogy that people either absolutely love or they really, really hate. So I'm very interested to see what I will eventually think of them. But as of right now, I think this is the only book that I actually have from her, so I would very much like to read it. And this one says, Amina Al-Sarafi should be content. After a storied and scandalous career as one of the Indian Ocean's most notorious pirates, she survived backstabbing rogues, vengeful Merton princes, several husbands, and one actual demon to retire peacefully with her family to a life of piety, motherhood, and absolutely nothing that hints of the supernatural. But when she's tracked down by the obscenely wealthy mother of a former crewman, she's offered a job no bandit could refuse. Retrieve her comrade's kidnapped daughter for a kingly sum. The chance to have one last adventure with her crew, do right by an old friend, and win a fortune that will secure her family's future forever. It seems like such an obvious choice that it must be God's will. This just sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. It has a couple buzzwords of mine. I absolutely love fantasy novels that have to do with thieves and rogues and pirates and all of that, so I'm very, very excited for this one. The next one that I have is An Orc on the Wild Side by Tom Holt. And I didn't realize that Tom Holt writes under a couple different names, and I did just read a book by him. It was the Save as Corax series. He writes under another name, and so after I read that one and realized it was the same person, I was like, oh, this one's been on my shelf for a couple years. I should read this one. I did start reading this one a couple years ago when I did a try a chapter challenge, and I was having such a fun time with it, but then I ended up reading other things from that video, so I never went back to it, and I really, really need to. This one says, winter is coming, so why not get away from it all? Being the Dark Lord and Prince of Evil is not as much fun as it sounds, particularly if if you are a basically decent person. Technically, King Mordock is more goblin than person, but the point is that he's really keen to be a lot less despicable than his predecessors. Not that the other goblins appreciate Mordock's attempts to redefine the role. Why should they when his new healthcare program seems designed to actually extend life expectancy, and his efforts to end a perfectly reasonable war with the dwarves appear to have become an obsession? With confidence in his leadership crumbling, what Mordock desperately needs is a distraction. Perhaps some of these humans moving to the realm in search of great homes at affordable prices will be able to help. That just sounds like a lot of fun. I love kind of like quirky, humorous fantasy, and I think that this one is going to be a lot of fun. I've also read at least one other book that was about like a dark lord. I read Dreadful by Caitlin Rozakis, I think that was her name, and she wrote about this dark lord that like a spell went wrong and he blacked out and he woke up and was like, I don't want to be evil anymore. Why am I evil? I love shit like that, so I think I'm really gonna enjoy that one. Next, we have one that's been on my shelf for years. I Have Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I have 3 books of his on my shelves that I haven't read yet, so I really want to read this one. And this one says, as children, Kathy, Ruth, and Tommy were students at Hailsham, an exclusive boarding school secluded in the English countryside. It was a place of mercurial cliques and mysterious rules, and teachers were constantly reminding their charges of how special they were. Now, years later, Kathy is a young woman. Ruth and Tommy have re-entered her life, and for the first time, she's beginning to look back at their shared past and understand just what it is that makes them so special, and how that gift will shape the rest of their time together. Really know a ton about this one. I think they made a movie out of it. I know a lot of people absolutely love this one, but recently I've seen some reviews from people who have read it and were like, nah, didn't really love it. So I'm very interested to see what I'm going to think of this one, and hopefully I will enjoy it so I can read the other books that I have from this author. Then I have a short story collection I decided to throw in. This one is White Cat, Black Dog by Kelly Link. This one was recommended to me by a couple different people that they thought I would really like it, and I bought this one when I was reading a lot of short story collections earlier this year, and then I just never picked it up, so I really need to. And this one, I know it's like fairy tale inspired. It says, finding seeds of inspiration in the stories of the Brothers Grimm, 17th century French lore, and Scottish ballads, Kelly Link spins classic fairy tales into utterly original stories of seekers, characters on the hunt for love, connection, revenge, or their own sense of purpose. It says, in The White Cat's Divorce, an aging billionaire sends his 3 sons on a series of absurd goose chases to decide which child will become his heir. That sounds like the Inheritance series. Is it by Jennifer Lynn Barnes? It has like 1 billion books in it. That sounds kind of like that. The Girl Who Did Not Know Fear is about a professor with a delicate health condition who becomes stranded for days in an airport hotel after a conference, desperate to get home to her wife and daughter, and in acute danger of being late for an appointment that can't be missed. It just sounds like a fun compilation of weird short stories, and I think I'm really going to enjoy it. The next one I have is one, again, I've heard very mixed things about, but I've had this sitting on my shelf for a couple years. This one is Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro, and this is the first book in either a series or a duology. It takes place in England in the 1800s. It says, in Victorian London, 2 children with mysterious powers are hunted by a figure of darkness, a man made of smoke. What follows is a story of wonder and betrayal from the gaslit streets of London and the wooden theaters of Meiji-era Tokyo to an eerie estate outside Edinburgh where other children with gifts, the talents, have been gathered. There, the world of the dead and the world of the living threaten to collide, and as secrets within the Institute unfurl, Marlowe, Charlie, and the rest of the talents will discover the truth about their abilities and the nature of what is stalking them, that the worst monsters sometimes come bearing the sweetest gifts. Typically love stories about magical kids and also stuff set in Victorian London, so I'm hoping that this will be a good fit. I don't have to necessarily fall in love with the story if it gives me good vibes, and this one's a chunker, so I'm hoping that the vibes will be there. Then one that will kind of check a couple boxes for me is this one, which is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I have not read anything by this author yet, and I have like 6 of their books on my Kindle, and then I have this physical copy, so I really do need to finally read something by them because I know there are some like die-hard Sylvia fans out there. Also, this is one of my major buzzwords, which is anything related to Dr. Moreau. In college, I wrote some essays on Dr. Moreau, and I've read that story 1,000 times, and so over the years, as I've found books that are inspired by it, I've picked up and read them and absolutely loved them. I think this is the only one I currently have on my shelf, so I really need to read it. This one is about Carlotta Moreau, who is a young woman growing up on a remote and luxuriant estate, safe from the conflict and strife of the Yucatan Peninsula, the only daughter of a researcher who is either a genius or a madman. And then there's Montgomery Lawton, who's a melancholic overseer with a tragic past and a propensity for alcohol. An outcast who assists Carlotta's father with his experiments, which are financed by the Lizaldes, owners of magnificent haciendas and plentiful coffers. The hybrids, the fruits of the doctor's labor, destined to blindly obey their creator and remain in the shadows. A motley group of part human, part animal monstrosities. All of them live in a perfectly balanced and static world, which is jolted by the abrupt arrival of Eduardo Lizalde, the charming and careless son of Dr. Moreau's patron, who will unwittingly begin a dangerous chain reaction. For Moreau keeps secrets, Carlotta has questions, and in the sweltering heat of the jungle, passions may ignite. That sounds like it's gonna be fun. So I'm super excited for this one. One that I started reading earlier this year when I was doing a try a chapter tag to determine if I was gonna get rid of any books, and I decided to keep it but then never continued, is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. This is, again, another one that people either absolutely love it or they hate it. This one takes place on an unnamed island where objects are disappearing. Hats, ribbons, birds, roses. Most of the inhabitants are oblivious to these changes, while those few able to recall the lost objects live in fear of the draconian memory police, who are committed to ensuring that what has disappeared remains forgotten. When a young writer discovers that her editor is in danger, she concocts a plan to hide him beneath her floorboards, and together they cling to her writing as the last way of preserving the past. Read up to chapter 4 when I did that try a chapter tag, and I was really enjoying it, but I just picked up other things instead and never picked it back up, so I would love to finally finish this one. Then we have another fantasy on my shelf that has been here for a while. This one is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. I think there's at least one other one. I don't know if it's just a duology, but this one is a reimagining of the Ming Dynasty's founding emperor. Is there no description? There's just quotes on the back. I can't tell you anything about the book because there's literally just quotes on the back. There's no description. I remember buying this one at the same time as the Poppy War, but I read the Poppy War instead of this one, so I need to go back and read this one. Then we've got Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I had a couple of her books over the years, and I just get rid of them instead of reading them, so I need to actually read them. This one says, all sorcerers are evil. Elizabeth has known that as long as she's known anything. She was raised as a foundling in one of the Ostermere's great libraries, and she's grown up among magical grimoires that rattle beneath iron chains, capable of transforming into grotesque monsters. When an act of sabotage releases the library's most dangerous grimoire, Elizabeth is accused of treason. With no one to turn to but her sworn enemy, the sorcerer Nathaniel Thorne, and his mysterious servant, she finds herself entangled in a centuries-old conspiracy. Not only could the great libraries go up in flames, but the world along with them. So I don't know if this is also going to be like an enemies to lovers or just kind of like a fun fantasy, but I love fantasies that are also set in libraries, so I would really love to read this one. One I've had on my shelf forever and I never actually picked up was this one, which was completely a cover buy. I had never seen this one before, and I don't think I've actually seen anyone talk about it. This one is The Sisters of the Winterwood by Rena Rosner. It says, in a remote village surrounded by vast forests, Liba and Leia have been raised on the honeyed scent of their mommy's babka and the low rumble of their tati's prayers. But when dark forces threaten their village, the sisters discover a family secret passed down through generations. Faced with a magical heritage they never knew existed, the sisters realize the old fairy tales are true and could save them all. This one sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun to read in the winter. I think I will probably pick this one up maybe January or February. Then I have a horror. This one is called Fever House by Keith Rawson, and I've heard great things about this author. This one, oh, it's got a quote in the back from Delilah Dawson, who I absolutely love. When leg breaker Hutch Holtz rolls up to a rundown apartment complex in Portland, Oregon to collect overdue drug money, a severed hand is the last thing he expects to find stashed in the client's refrigerator. Hutch quickly realizes that the hand induces uncontrollable madness. Anyone in its proximity is overcome with a boundless compulsion for violence. Within hours, catastrophic forces are set into motion. Dark government agents who have been desperately hunting for the hand are on Hutch's tail. More of the city's residents fall under its brutal influence, and suddenly all of Portland stands on the precipice of disaster. Yes, okay. I remember picking this one up when I went to the bookstore because it reminded me so much of, oh my god, there was a horror movie, or maybe it was a comedy, I don't remember, in the 90s about a hand and I don't remember anything other than that. But this triggered that memory of this like sentient hand. Very excited for it. Also, recently the horror movie Talk to Me came out that has a hand in it, so I'm excited for this one. Then we have another horror, which She is a Haunting by Trang Tan Tran, and this author has at least one new book out, and I know people absolutely love their work. So this one says, Jade Nguyen arrives in Vietnam with one goal: pretend to be a happy family in the French colonial house her estranged father is restoring. If she survives these 5 weeks, she can get out with the college money Ba promised. But the house has other plans. Traces of a deadly history are everywhere. Something is rotting the house and its inhabitants, and night after night, Jade is haunted by a beautiful ghost who cryptically warns, don't eat. A home, after all, is only as powerful as those who breathe new life into its bones. And this one is determined never to be abandoned again. Talk about buzzwords, y'all. If someone is like restoring a house or cleaning out a house after a death and there's something up with the house, 1000% I'm on board. I've read so many books like that. I freaking love them. I eat them up. Oh, I'm so excited for this one. Then we've got this beast of a fantasy. This one is The Sword of Kagan by M.L. Wong, and people absolutely loved this one when it came out a couple years ago, so I bought it and then didn't read it. This one says, on a mountainside at the edge of the Kaganese Empire live the most powerful fighters in the world. Warriors capable of raising the sea and wielding blades of ice. For centuries, the fighters of the Kusanagi Peninsula have held the Empire's enemies at bay, earning their treacherous spit of land named the Sword of Kaigan. Born into Kusanagi's legendary Matsuda family, 14-year-old Mamoru has always known his purpose: to master his family's fighting techniques and defend his homeland. But when an outsider arrives and pulls back the curtain on Kaigan's alleged age of peace, Mamoru realizes that he might not have much time before he has to become the fighter he was bred to be. Even worse, the empire he was born to defend might stand on a foundation of lies. Oh, okay. Someone on the back says, the Poppy's War's darkness meets The Last Airbender's elemental magic. My husband and I are about to start watching Avatar for the first time ever. Like the cartoon, the anime, not the movies. So very excited for that. Next we have Gone to the Wolves by John Ray. This one I picked up at the same time that I picked up Fever House in that same bookstore, and then I never read it. I think this one is maybe a horror. It says, Kip, Kira, and Leslie are outliers. Even in the metal scene they love. In arch-conservative backwoods Florida in the 80s, just listening to heavy metal can get you arrested, but the risk is worth taking because music is what leads them to each other. As different from one another as they are, the three form a family of sorts, one safer and more loving than the broken homes they come from. Together they make the pilgrimage from Florida's swamp country to LA's fabled Sunset Strip, but the beautiful new life they dreamed of soon proves a mirage. Kira finds herself drawn to ever darker and more extreme strains of metal, drifting toward a place where her two friends, for all their love, can't follow. On a trip to Europe for her 22nd birthday, she simply vanishes in the middle of a show. Years later, the shocking truth about her disappearance reunites Kip and Leslie, whose search for her takes them from California to the snowbound woods of Norway. But bringing Kira home will require a greater sacrifice than either can imagine. This sounds exciting. I am a massive metalhead, have been for a very long time, same with my husband, and this makes me think it's going to be inspired by kind of Norwegian black metal and some of the stuff that's happened historically with Norwegian black metal. That makes me think that that's kind of what inspired it, but I will report back on that. Then we have another fantasy. We have two by Neon Yang here. So we have the Tensorit series. This is a bind up of the 4 books in the Tensorit series. And I did read the first one years ago and absolutely loved it and then never continued on. So I'm very excited that I have them all in this bind up. Honestly, I can't tell you anything about them because the back just has quotes. Kind of annoying. But the first one is called The Black Tides of Heaven, and I remember really liking it. It says, in the Tensorit series, you will find rebellious non-binary scions of empire, sky-spanning nagas with experimental souls, revolutionary engineers bent on bringing power to the people, pugilist monks, packs of loyal raptors, and much, much more. Very excited that I have the bind up and I will finally be reading it. Another one by Neon Yang then. So I got this one as an ARC through a Goodreads giveaway years ago because this one came out in 2022. I think that's when I won it and I've just never read it. And this is a debut novel because these were all novellas. It says The Genesis of Misery is a reimagining of Joan of Arc's story with a space opera twist. I'm very much in the mood for science fiction right now, so I'm excited. It says this is the story of Misery Namaki, she, they, a nobody from a nowhere mining planet. Misery has abilities they shouldn't, though. They can bend the will of stone, a powerful and dangerous magic that only saints are said to have. These abilities lead Misery to the center of the Empire, where rumors spread that Misery is the next Messiah, and where those in power seek to use Misery to win a terrible war. Amid a nest of vipers, Misery goes close to a rebellious royal, Lady Elodia Lightning, and decides to embrace the legacy the prophecies speak of. True or false, for better or worse, Misery will be the 9th Messiah. Excited to have a science fiction to read. Then I have this one, which is a dark academia kind of thing. This one is called Stoner by John Williams, and it's like a classic dark academia story, I think. William Stoner is born at the end of the 19th century into a dirt poor Missouri farming family. Sent to the state university to study agronomy, he instead falls in love with English literature and embraces a scholar's life, so different from the hardscrabble existence he has known. And yet, as the years pass, Stoner encounters a succession of disappointments. Marriage into a proper family estranges him from his parents, his career is stymied, his wife and daughter turn coldly away from him, a transforming experience of new love ends under threat of scandal. Driven even deeper within himself, Stoner rediscovers the stoic silence of his forebears and confronts an essential solitude. This one I feel like is going to be really good for spring, and it's not terribly long, so I'm hoping that that one will come up in spring for me to read. Then we have The Prestige by Christopher Priest, which I did start reading in that try a chapter tag and realized that I was really gonna love it. I'm excited to read this one and then rewatch the movie because I haven't seen it since I was in high school. It says, in 1878, two young stage magicians clash in the dark during the course of a fraudulent seance. From this moment on, their lives become webs of deceit and revelation as they vie to outwit and expose each other. Their rivalry will take them to the peaks of their careers, but with terrible consequences. In the course of pursuing each other's ruin, they will deploy all the deception their magician's craft can command. The highest misdirection and the darkest science. So excited to finally dive into this one. I think it's going to be great. Then we have a classic that I've had on my shelf for a while because I thought that I would read it and then that my husband would also read it. It says, the only book in the last 10 years that I've read twice, a remarkable achievement. That's a quote from Arthur C. Clarke. That's why I picked this one up. So this one is This Is the Way the World Ends by James Morrow. I have never heard anything about this one. Morrow won the Nebula Award twice and the World Fantasy Award once for his novel Only Begotten Daughter. Well, damn, maybe I should have that one instead. So this one says, in 1995, George Paxton is an ordinary American living an ordinary life in an ordinary town. Content as a tombstone carver and family man, George lacks only one thing, a fashionable Scopas survival suit, complete with sanitary facilities and a Colt 45 to protect his daughter in the event of nuclear war. Then, through a twist of fate, George secures the coveted suit, a deluxe golden model for the price of a mere signature. Unfortunately, what he signs proves to be a diabolical pact affirming his complicity in the escalating nuclear arms race, and as the war that could never happen happens, George is whisked into the past and the future to face the consequences of his actions. Interesting. Okay. Since this is set in the 90s, let's see. When did this one come out? I was 4 in 1995. This one came out in 1986, set in the 90s as a future world. Interesting. Okay, we'll see how this one goes. I think the vibes are going to be weird. Then we have Severance by Ling Ma, which is one that I've had on my shelf for a couple years. Looks like, again, there's no freaking info on the back, just quotes. Can we stop doing that, y'all? We get it with the quotes that people like the book. I want to know what it's about. I'm pretty sure this is a pandemic novel. It says, is it the end of the world or just another day at the office? I don't know. I've heard good things, so I'm excited. Then we have another short story collection. This one is How Long Till Black Future Month by N.K. Jemisin. Freaking love N.K. Jemisin, one of my favorite authors, and I had this one. I've read the first story a couple times, I think, but I never read the rest of them. It says it's got narratives of destruction, rebirth, and redemption. Very excited for this one. I haven't read anything from N.K. Jemisin in a while. I read the Broken Earth trilogy by them, and then I read their, was it a Green Lantern graphic novel? I read that and I really enjoyed it. And I've read some short stories, but I haven't read a novel or like a collection in a while, so I'm excited. Then we have one that's completely different. This one is Sherlock Holmes versus Cthulhu, The Adventures of the Deadly Dimensions. This is book 1 in this series by Lois H. Gresh. And this is about Sherlock Holmes Against Cthulhu, which I'm so excited for. I am a Sherlock Holmes junkie. I absolutely love any stories that are inspired by or like reimaginings of Sherlock Holmes. So this one is The Shape of Ancient Evil. A series of grisly murders rocks London. At each location, only a jumble of bones remains of the deceased, along with a bizarre sphere covered in strange symbols. The son of the latest victim seeks the help of Sherlock Holmes and his former partner, Dr. John Watson. They discover the common thread tying together the murders. Bizarre geometries based on ancient schematics enable otherworldly creatures to enter our dimension, seeking to wreak havoc and destruction. The persons responsible are gaining so much power that even Holmes' greatest enemy fears them, to the point that he seeks an unholy alliance. It just sounds like it's going to be dope. I love like super fun, ridiculous stories like this. One I've heard very, very good things about. This is the start of, I think it's only a duology, and I did start reading it before, but again, just picked up other things. So this one is Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. It says, glory never gets old. Clay Cooper and his band were once the best of the best, the most feared and renowned crew of mercenaries this side of the Heartwild. Their glory days long past, the mercs have grown apart and grown old, fat, drunk, or a combination of the three. Then an ex-bandmate turns up at Clay's door with a plea for help, the kind of mission that only the very brave or the very stupid would sign up for. People absolutely love this book, and I think I read like 40 pages of it. I was really enjoying it, but again, I just picked up other things, so I would love to finally read it. We're almost done, guys. We have Warlock Holmes, A Study in Brimstone by G.S. Denning. This is also, I think, the start of a series. This says, Sherlock Holmes is an unparalleled genius who uses the gift of deduction and reason to solve the most vexing of crimes. Warlock Holmes, however, is not. He may be a font of arcane power, but frankly, he couldn't deduce his way out of a paper bag. The only thing he's got going for him are the might of 1,000 demons, the spirit of Moriarty trapped in his head, and his stalwart companion, Dr. John Watson, who is always there to guide him through the treacherous shoals of Victorian propriety and save him from a gruesome death every now and again. It says, starring Warlock Holmes, incompetent detective, Vladislav Lestrade, nihilist vampire, Torg Grogson, house-proud ogre, and John Watson, terrified. I'm so excited for these Sherlock Holmes books. They've been on my shelves for years. I bought them both at the same time, and then I just never picked them up, so I really need to. And the final book on this massive list is Gwen and Art Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher. I went out of my way to buy this and then didn't buy it. This one says, it's been hundreds of years since King Arthur's reign. His descendant Arthur, a future lord and general gadabout, has been betrothed to Gwendolen, the quick-witted, short-tempered Princess of England since birth. The only thing they can agree on is that they despise each other. They're forced to spend the summer together at Camelot in the run-up to their nuptials, and within 24 hours, Gwen has discovered Arthur kissing a boy, and Arthur has gone digging for Gwen's childhood diary and found confessions of her crush on the kingdom's only lady knight, Bridget Leclerc. Realizing they might make better allies than enemies, they make a reluctant pact to cover for each other, and as things heat up at the annual royal tournament, Gwen is swept off her feet by her knight, and Arthur takes an interest in Gwen's royal brother. Gwen and Art Are Not in Love is chock full of sword fighting, found family, and romantic shenanigans destined to make readers fall in love. I've heard really fun things about this one. I know there's, I think, at least one other one, but I'm not sure if it's like a prequel or what it is, but I am really excited for this one. This is a massive list, 26 books I'm hoping to get to in 2026. Keep an eye out as I do different challenge videos and TBRs for all of these books to pop up throughout the year, and I will report back and keep this updated as I go through and finish any of these. Are any of these on your list to get to in 2026? Are you taking part in the TBR Spin Challenge this next year? And that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye!